Being part of the ISV Connect program helps our visibility with Microsoft sellers, which in turn helps us when we're introduced to new partners.
It has accelerated our entrance into new markets, and our product is developing with higher quality and at higher speed than it would otherwise have.
Things like ISV licensing, handling our licenses just like any Microsoft first-party applications. We see that as a big benefit.
What ISV Connect program introduced is very different level of confidence with our customer. And with the Microsoft expanding the program, we are expecting to grow our ISV portfolio significantly.
Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Welcome to another installment of ISV Connect Live. It is an honor to have Kristin, who leads the partnerships at Seismic, join me this morning. But before we kind of get started, let me do a quick round of housekeeping items, just for those of you who've never seen these before. Well, context to why we do these and how to engage during the event. So we do these every Monday at 8 o'clock West Coast time, to really showcase and highlight the breadth and the amazing partners we have, ISVs particularly, in our Microsoft Dynamics ecosystem. And Seismic is an amazing partner for many, many years, driving amazing innovation around sales enablement that Kristin and I will talk about. And so during the event, we'd love to hear where you're watching from. So if you're watching from the US, or maybe from Seattle, where I'm doing this from, or if you're watching from Europe, or maybe you're up super late and you're watching from Asia, thank you so much for making the time to spend with us today. So if you want to type in the window where you're watching from, we'll definitely give you a shout out as we get started this morning. The other is that as you're engaging in the conversation and listening to the conversation, if you want to use the like, support, etc., that gives Kristin and I indication that the content is resonating. And if you actually have a question, I'll actually ask it live to where Kristin can actually address it real time. And so in the LinkedIn comment window, if you just want to type in the specific question, that also gives an opportunity for you to share some insight. So without further ado, Kristin, thank you so much for making the time on a Monday morning to share with me. And it's interesting because we're leading up to Easter. It's first official Monday in April. Why don't you give a little background to the people listening, watching live or replay? What do you do for your role, and what's one thing not in your LinkedIn profile that you're open to sharing to the audience?
Thanks, Brian. I'm just thrilled to be here. It's great to know you even better. And I've started about 5 months ago at Seismic running partnerships here. And some of the things that we're focused on this year is really doubling down on our strategic ISV partners like Microsoft, and also working with our teams across the world to really make sure that we have that centralized focus on the outcomes we're providing to our customers. And so we're just really excited. Microsoft is obviously one of our favorite partners, and everything you're doing with ISV Connect is really impactful for us. In terms of what we're looking at in my LinkedIn profile, the things that aren't there, I mean, there's a lot. My dog certainly is not on my LinkedIn profile. I have 2 of them. But this one likes to appear in most of the things that I do. And so his favorite spot is to ruin the pillows on the couch behind me. The other thing is what I love doing with the 2 of them is going on trail hikes. So trail runs and hiking. And that's basically my backyard. I live just north of San Francisco, and in Marin County, there's tons and tons of places to go running in the mountains. So that's what I would say I like to do. It's not on LinkedIn.
I love it, Kristin. Yeah, Marin County, just across, for those of you who aren't familiar, if you're in San Francisco and you go across the Golden Gate Bridge, that is Marin County. And I love that location, and it's great. It looks like it's a little bit sunny today. So let's do a quick shout out before we actually get into the meat of the conversation. A quick shout out to the people actually watching live. So Maurice, thank you for watching. He's probably just in my backyard a little bit, probably for me in Redmond, Washington. So thanks, Maurice, for watching. We have Michael from San Diego. So Michael, thank you for watching. I'm sure it's very sunny there. Beth, thank you for watching from Atlanta. I love being in Atlanta. It's just the food and then all the sporting events that occur there. And then Ewan, I know that you didn't mention it, but I know you're watching from London. And yeah, definitely, I loved, if I had a couch behind me, my golden retriever would probably be doing something similar, just hanging out during the event. So thank you everyone for watching live. And again, feel free to continue to put comments in the window and we'll definitely give a shout out. And actually there's one more. Aditya. Hopefully I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Thank you for watching from great Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. So thanks, Aditya, for taking the time. Oh, and then one more, Chris, thank you for watching from Nashville, one of my favorite places too because of the music. So Chris, thanks for watching from Nashville, Tennessee. So that being said, Kristin, why don't we get started? For those who don't know who Seismic is, maybe you can give a little context to Seismic and the business outcomes you help to drive. Because again, when we think about sales and with both of our backgrounds, the value that Seismic brings is so valuable because it's how do you provide better customer outcomes when a seller is driving the right dialogue. So maybe you can talk about Seismic in itself and what do you do and the business outcomes that you guys help to solve.
Definitely. Thanks, Brian. So at Seismic, people think of us as a sales enablement platform, right? And our biggest thing that we try to do is help to provide better selling outcomes. And we do that really within the business to help you run your business better. So some of the 4 things that we like to talk about are how can we help to improve go-to-market efficiency, right? And giving the skills to sellers, including things like being able to help them with lowering ramp time and finding content easily and being able to understand really like onboarding new concepts and how to make it easier for them to do. We also then help with the buyer experience. So how are we providing the right content to our buyers at the right time? And that's a really important thing if you think about the market. If you are providing a story that doesn't make sense for the people you're giving it to, it makes it a lot less impactful. So big outcome for us that we try to work on is how do we help with that buyer experience? Next, we think about the operationalizing piece and how do we help with the technology? So when you're thinking about your tech stack and how do you make things work together better, that's another piece that we're really trying to focus on. And that's a big piece of our Microsoft partnership is like, how do we work seamlessly with the technology that you're using today? And the last one is really helping with the agility and speed to market. So if you have new launches, new concepts, how do you get that pushed out into your market as quickly as you can? And that's one of the places where our relevant content as well as coaching really tend to help with those pieces.
Gosh, well said, Kristin. I mean, it's such a wealth of capabilities because one of the things too is at Microsoft, we use Seismic internally for our own sellers, and all those things you talked about is some of the things we really have been able to leverage because I love how you articulate it. It's like for the seller, how do you make them more efficient in the onboarding process? Because of course, when you think about sales, there's always new sellers that are going to get onboarded into the experience. And how do they get up to speed super quick to know the right content, the right training, to say the right things to customers? But I love how you also said it's also for the customer journey. How do we take a customer through understanding what scenarios, and it doesn't matter, you don't have to be in tech, it could be whatever type of scenario that you help to solve to go address that. And then helping the marketing people, one of the things I love about it is the fact that it helps to centralize all this amazing content for sellers to easily find it and discover it so that as they're going through the selling journey with a buyer, they actually have the ability to discover the relevant content at the right time to share that. Hopefully, does that give you, is that a kind of an accurate?
Yeah, that is very accurate. I think that the big piece there, I think about content, right? And trying to get the right content at the right time. And what I needed to just prep for this last night, right? I'm thinking to myself, what are we going to talk about today, Brian? And so where did I go? I went into Seismic, right? I went into Seismic to think, okay, what is the persona that's probably going to be here? What do we want to talk about? How do we want to focus on our relationship? And so it's being able to find things like that really easily right when you need it. So it's that just-in-time content piece.
I love it, Kristin. Before we get to the next question, maybe you can give a sense for the people watching, like what do people typically use or do? So when they're not using Seismic, what are the things that a buyer, maybe or customer organization has that then they realize, oh my gosh, there's a much more efficient way to do this? What have you seen behind the scenes that people are using to just
behind the scenes
the automation?
Yeah. I can tell you from my experience. So I was at a company that went from not using Seismic to using it. And it's interesting. You're basically word of mouth presentations and content, right? So you're getting your content from someone else who's done it before, maybe through an email or a shared drive, or you're listening into someone's call and then asking for that presentation afterward. But there's not really a way to think through, okay, here are my relevant pieces for this particular presentation. And sometimes you're ending up with tons and tons of variations of it. And it's no longer the way marketing wanted it with brands. And so there's all of these components that you're thinking about. is it actually the right content? How has it worked for these types of engagements, right? Being able to get the feedback from that type of content, and then also just being able to find it quickly and know that it's the right content that's the most up to date.
Yeah, I
So
love
yeah,
it.
it's been a challenge in the past. And then once you have it, you see the big shift, right? Like you know exactly where to get it. You can make a tailored approach to saying, okay, here's the type of persona I want to have this presentation around, and then being able to put that into play is just it's so great to do it so quickly.
Yeah, and I love how you said that because it flashed me back to my selling and sales leader days. It's that word of mouth. Like how many times, hey, does someone have this type of presentation that existed? And it's amazing. Like if you send it to the right distribution list, the seller is replying back saying, oh, I can use this and I can use this. And it's just the variations that you get. And just knowing, oh, I sent it to the right one, or maybe I didn't know where to send it. And I think a lot of those things help to dissipate when you actually leverage an amazing tool like Seismic to kind of centralize that process and engagement. I love it. So next question would be, of course, I mean, you've been in role for 5 months, but you've started to see, again, the partnership we have. And we truly appreciate the engagement that we have together as organizations. But maybe you could talk about, again, the partnership itself. What have you seen over the past 5 months of where we're at, and maybe a teaser, because we have an amazing video that we're going to show at the end that talks about some of the innovation that we are working on together that is really taking the ability to, again, as you mentioned, taking the amazing Microsoft cloud capabilities and what Seismic is doing to continue to expand on those to make a better outcome for sellers and that buying experience even better. Maybe we can talk about the partnership.
Yeah, that's great. So I think it's really been so interesting to learn so much about this partnership, right? And so because of the way that we are partners, we're so lucky because we sit on so many different capabilities alongside Microsoft. You know, we're platformed with Azure. We use the 365 tooling. We are integrated with Outlook, PowerPoint, Teams, things like that. And so because of all of those integrations, we have such a dynamic relationship with Microsoft that we are actually very close with a lot of their sellers and helping within their engagements. Not only that, but we also then see Microsoft using Seismic and being able to then get that type of feedback directly from their sellers as well. So being in your different EBRs and things like that, we've really been so fortunate to be able to have that type of relationship where we're both so willing to partner together on relationships. And because of those kind of different 3 pillars that we sit in, I feel like our ISV relationship has really been able to be so dynamic in terms of understanding where the product can go and where it is today. And so we have these amazing customer stories like a Maersk, right, where we talk about how we've worked with them together really in their growth trajectory and how they've grown so quickly globally. And we've been able to work with them together to partner on a solution where they're not only just using Seismic, but they actually are able to see this huge capability in terms of reduction of hours within their presentation and manual efforts. I think one of the things we just talked about was, how do I know which version of this presentation was right? And they had something like 50 versions of presentations in PowerPoint before using Seismic. And now with the partnership between Seismic and Microsoft, they know this is the right presentation for them to use, and this is the most up-to-date. And then they can actually see the metrics of success on the back end of it. It's really, really impactful. And it's stories like that that I think just really help to grow our partnership even further. And so focusing on that piece as well, I think about just how we're also then able to see our partners that you guys are partners with even introducing us to. So it's the ISV Connect piece of it as well. I think about just the name. You're not just there to help us connect with you. You're really there to help us connect with this broader ecosystem as well. And to me, that's just such an amazing kind of added benefit to working with Microsoft so closely.
I love it, Kristin. And thank you for making that comment at the end, because I know that just recently your partner development manager, Ewan, who is on this phone call, and also Carmen. I do want to give a quick out to Carmen. Carmen had mentioned as well, love hiking. So maybe next time she's in the Bay Area, maybe we can go on the hike with you in the Marin County area. But I love how you said that, because it is about partner to partner. One of the amazing things about Microsoft and partnering with Microsoft is that the ability to engage not just with our humongous selling community to drive value to our joint customers, but also being able to have conversations with other partners, whether other ISVs and or implementation partners to showcase that value to where they themselves, one, could be using it because our partners have the same types of challenges that we're describing here. But then the other is that if they're in implementations driving the ability to do sales automation and sales enablement, these are things that we can bring in, or they can bring in on top of the implementation that says, oh my gosh, there's an amazing partner out there, a global ISV called Seismic, that does these types of things to, again, better the engagement. One thing I do want to call out too is that Beth had a nice summary here. And I think it really amplifies all the things that we're talking about of less clicks, less noise, simple navigation, access to high performing content. I love it. So Beth, that's a great summary as well to how Kristin and I have been talking about it, is just, again, how do you have a seller find the right information at the right time as they're going through the journey? And I think that's the amazing thing too. Of course, it can be in Dynamics, but it is also, you touched upon it, Kristin, it can be in other places like Teams or Outlook, or maybe you could touch upon the thing that we'll show at the end is the things that we're doing with Viva Sales. And so for those of you who don't know, Viva Sales is an extension of our capabilities, not just with Dynamics, but it could also be connected to another CRM tool as well that allows a seller to engage with the information at the right time, utilizing productivity tools such as Teams. And so maybe, Kristin, you can touch upon some of that, the things that we're doing that's going to showcase the video that we'll have run at the end. It's about a 2.5 minute video that we'll run at the end, but maybe you could talk about the next journey that we're taking with Viva Sales.
Yeah, so one of the things I think about is, you can surface relevant content, whether it be from Outlook or Dynamics or the different systems within Microsoft, and be able to use that content to create that like highly differentiated type of content that you want to be able to provide. And I think one of the biggest things is when you think about that one piece that I was talking about, like the operational component, where we're thinking about the outcomes of our customers and how do we help to drive kind of the less clicks, less navigation from every system. You really want to help to drive the rep to be able to sell, right? And ultimately, that's what you want to have. And so when we think, where do you live? Where do you live as a seller today? And so one of the things we hear over and over is, whether it be Outlook or within Teams, we want to be able to provide the content where that seller is. So one of the new things we're working on with Microsoft that's so exciting within Viva Sales is being able to then provide that just-in-time content. So think if you're wrapping up a Teams call and you just presented to a prospect, you want to be able to then see that content coming back. And so that's really going to be a way for that to engage and bring in that content that's going to have the relevancy that you can then follow up and send, use it, maybe use Copilot, right? And you're going to be able to have that email, and then you can take that Seismic content that will be able to come through the Viva Sales integration and have the content that you would want to follow up with right away afterward. So that's one of the big pieces of that, as well as then being able to have coaching tools and things like that right at your fingertips. So we're super excited about that because we realize it's just going to, again, help to further the story that we have of how we can make it easier for people to really use our tooling together.
Yeah, I love how you said that, make it easier. And your reference to Copilot is, again, that innovation. And for those of you who have never, may not have come across that term. So Microsoft Copilot is this next generation capability that we announced, maybe it's been 3 weeks ago now, where it's leveraging AI and Azure, OpenAI, and ChatGPT to drive this innovation. For those of you probably watching the kind of the industry, AI is one of those things that many organizations are looking at. And what you talked about, Kristin, is spot on, because when people watch the video, it's going to come to life, because the video that I was able to watch that will showcase at the end, it's amazing because it's showcasing that specific example you talked about. Let's say this was a customer meeting and you were the seller, I was the buyer. And when we dropped off, this notification of information to say, hey, here are things that are super relevant for you to have and potentially send to Brian for me to consume. In addition to all the other things that talked about the telemetry of what happened in the meeting, who said what, and those types of information that's pulling it all together, plus Seismic then taking that and saying, here's the relevant content that we believe you should be sending to this buyer based upon the buyer journey and what we've heard in that meeting. Very powerful, because then it takes away some of the guessing that sellers have to do, going, well, where do I find it? And, oh, does someone have this type of content? it's the intelligence coming through Seismic and integrating is going to provide that to us. I love it. So maybe you could talk about, please go ahead.
No. I was just going to say, and then you can utilize something that even Microsoft people have sent to me, which is that live send capability, right? Yes. Within Seismic, and then you can see the engagement of your documents. And that's so big, right? I think when having not used it before, you think to yourself, have they seen this email? Have they looked at the presentation? If they looked at it, did they look at it for a long time, right? How long have they looked at it multiple times, shared it with other teammates? So it's so great to be able to see that. And I think that also is something that really helps to make this such a dynamic solution, is it's not only just presenting the content, but it's presenting an easy way to be able to get it out there and show the engagement of the content as well.
Yeah, and God, that's another good call out, Kristin, because at the end of the day, when you think about a buyer's journey, a buyer in most cases is not just a single person. It is a multitude of different people that are making the buying decision. And to your point, if a seller can see the insight as to who's looking at the content, what typically happens in a buying cycle, you can imagine is you send something to me and I go, oh, this is super interesting. And I send it to the people making a buying decision. I go, hey, check out this content that Kristin sent me. And then what do? They click on it and they go, oh, then you start to see, well, who are else in the buying circle that are driving that insight so that the seller can see that those potential additional people that they need to build an engagement with, a relationship with, or pause and go, well, how is this person related to this person in a buying decision? And so that was a great call out too, because I totally forgot that, hey, those are, again, innovations that Seismic has built in that can drive and advance the journey that someone is taking with a Microsoft capability, including Dynamics, to go do that. One of the things I was going to do a follow-up question, Kristin, is so you mentioned the customer story of Maersk and that scenario. Maybe you can give a commentary on where have you seen Seismic drive amazing value in specific industries? Because I know there's certain industries that Seismic does really, really well. Granted, this use case can be anywhere, which is if you have a seller and a selling community, which most companies do, unless you're in the government or something that is not necessarily sales or for-profit organizations. But in the commercial side, if you have a selling organization, there's use cases for this. But maybe you can talk about some of the industries that you've witnessed and seen in the 5 months you've been there, where this really has resonated because of the selling community and the buyer journeys they have to take with their end customers.
Definitely. I think probably people think right off the bat software, right? Like I think that's probably one that people think of when they think of sellers, right? Oh, definitely software. Me too. But most of my career has been in either finance or fintech, right? And I would say ultimately that's in a really interesting place because in that community, they might not think of themselves as sellers, right? And so you hit the nail on the head that not everybody thinks of themselves as a seller or thinks of a community, but financial services has really been a huge place for Seismic as well, and focusing on those relationships and how we've been able to really grow with them to help support their business needs, which are slightly different, obviously, than software. But I think in the end, what you're looking at is companies that want to be able to provide solutions that really are targeting the right audience and being able to have them. I would say it's a way to be able to control the message that is also going out to market, right? And so when you think about a regulated industry like financial services or maybe even healthcare, that's a big piece that you would need to think about. What is being sent out to my customers and that buyer experience? And you need to make sure that it's a message that is approved. And so that's a huge piece of what Seismic also helps with within financial services, is being able to provide that level of clarity into what is going into the market from your sellers.
Well said, Kristin. Yeah, and I think sometimes we fail to people may not realize that centralized communication is so valuable. And to your point, if you're in a regulated industry of, especially in financial services, of, hey, when you're taking someone down a journey, like a wealth manager or a commercial banker, taking someone on the journey, there are specific things you can or cannot say, or specific things that you need to be sending. Yep. And rather than, to your point, of word of mouth, it's like, hey, if you're at this point in the journey of someone in a financial services process, this is what you need to go send to them. And then all behind the scenes, what did they look at? Who's consuming it? And all those things you just talked about is fantastic. Let me go in and I'm going to send, Beth is just dropping nuggets of information here. So if people want to take a screenshot, when you think about Microsoft Viva Sales, and of course, Seismic is going to be tied to it, this is the website. So if you want to take a screenshot of this is the website that talks about it in more detail of what does Viva Sales do, because it is part of Dynamics. So if you buy Dynamics, you get that a portion of it. Or if you're using another CRM tool, you actually can utilize Viva Sales as well to go do that. Someone give you a nice shout out here, Nick. So thanks, Nick, for giving shout out to Kristin. So go, Kristin. And then thanks, Maurice. Maurice has a very specific comment in here, but I think I love how he said, like, not to be able to deliver marketing material, but enables the sellers to have the right conversation with their customers. And you're spot on, Maurice. It is trying to drive that of just making sure, like, what should a seller be using to have that dialogue? And one thing I will say is the fact that our win wires. So, for example, when we work together and when Seismic, for example, is winning with us with Microsoft, we've actually taken our win wires recently and put them into the Seismic experience, to your point. So really taking advantage of the capability you're talking about, Kristin, where when a dynamic seller is trying to understand, hey, when I'm taking this journey for sales enablement, where else have we done this before? The win wires with Seismic might pop up in Seismic. So I love the kind of.
That's exactly what I looked at for Mayors. Exactly. So It was that. Yep. I don't know if you saw it pop up, Brian. You might have seen the engagement come back to you. But that's right. I love it. So with the 4 minutes we have left, maybe we could talk about just kind of next steps. And it's funny, your second dog came into the room. I love it. He's like, hey, I gotta join this party. So maybe we can talk about, Kristin, what are places like for people to learn more? So if you're if it's a Microsoft seller, what they should be thinking about? And maybe it's another partner, to your point, in the partner experience, what your partners be thinking about. And then what if someone is a potential customer listening to this and comes across either live or replay and they're thinking, oh, this is super interesting. What are things that you would recommend people do? And of course, we're on LinkedIn. So I highly encourage you, if you're not connected with Kristin, definitely shoot her a connection request and say, hey, saw you on the ISV Connect live event. Love to stay connected, or myself. But maybe you could talk about kind of how do people learn more? I mean, learn more. I would say an easy way is definitely to connect with me, and I can get you to the right people in Seismic. I mean, you can go straight to our website as well. I know, Brian, you're going to share the resources up on the screen too. So seismic.com. And then we also have a website that will provide you with some additional information that is this short link. So feel free to screenshot that as well. But yeah, feel free to reach out to me, to Brian, and we can get you all put into the right place. So thank you so much.
I appreciate it, Kristin. So before we get to the video, is there any last minute comment? And again, if someone has a question, we have maybe a minute left to go ask it, because we do have, I want to make sure that there's enough time for people to watch this amazing, again, Microsoft plus Seismic Viva Sales scenario. But any last comments you'd like to share, Kristin, before we get to that video?
I just think it's very exciting, right, for us to be working together and to work on these innovative new product integrations and be able to just continue the path of where we have this integrated story and how closely we can partner together. So, if there are Microsoft people out there, I just want to say thank you for your partnership and all the sellers who've been working so closely with our teams here. It's just such a pleasure to have you guys as a partner. So I wanted to thank you, Brian, for having me, and thank all of the teams at Microsoft as well.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Kristin. It's a pleasure getting to know you and working very closely with you and the various Seismic employees to continue to innovate and drive the partnership. One last thing I'll flash up before we get to the videos. So Carmen sent out this, and again, if you want to take a screenshot of this, it is again, Viva Sales plus Seismic, and it's good timing. Thanks you, Carmen, for sharing that, because this is a good segue into the video that I'm about to show. So again, thank you, everyone, for making the time. Again, we do these ISV Connect live series events every Monday at 8 o'clock. We're going to take a pause for the next few weeks because, one, I'm going to be on vacation. So stay tuned. We're going to have another one in a few weeks coming up, and you're to see that detail. But thank you again, Kristin, for making the time. And I hope everyone enjoys this video. Thanks again.
In a digital-first world, creating meaningful experiences for customers and prospects is more important than ever before. Sales processes revolve around meetings, and it's my job as a seller to make sure that those meetings are relevant and memorable for my audience. I need to have the right story, the right answers, and the right cadence in order to inspire action amongst my buyer base. And doing so has historically been much easier said than done. But with the power of Microsoft Viva Sales and Seismic, that all changes. I've got an important meeting with a prospect coming up. So I begin to compile the content that I'm planning to show, along with some additional content on our other SKUs coming from my co-sellers who are working the deal alongside me. With Seismic, I can pull all of that content into a playlist ahead of time. So when it comes time to meet, I'll have everything right at my fingertips, ready to go. I'm able to join my meeting right from Outlook. And when my meeting with my prospect wraps, Viva Sales provides me with a full transcript and detailed notes that capture the important highlights, questions, and action items, cutting out all the administrative work and allowing me to focus on my next best action. Leveraging Viva Sales' conversational intelligence, Seismic comes in to provide recommended content, training, and pre-built digital sales rooms that take the guesswork out of what to do next. The topic of enterprise security came up during the meeting, and it's something that's relatively new to me. So Seismic has recommended that I take a quick training to get up to speed on our offering there. Launching this training gives me a concise and interactive overview of our enterprise security offerings in a format that's both memorable and easy for me to consume. Coupled with that enterprise security training is another follow-up that takes me to a custom and personalized pre-built digital sales room that I can share with my buyers. This has all of the content that's going to be relevant to them based on what we just spoke about, including some new security content. Finding all the right content and packaging it up, a process that used to sometimes take me hours, now happens in just a couple of minutes. This helps me to boost my deal velocity and allows me to actively engage with more opportunities throughout the day. Using the intelligent engine of Viva Sales and Seismic's powerful content and training-based recommendations not only gives me more time back in my day, it helps me to follow up with confidence and stand out amongst my competitors as a truly trustworthy advisor to my customers and prospects. What we've just shown will be the post-meeting experience for sellers, and we're excited to be expanding this partnership with pre- and during meeting experiences for sellers in the future.